Video, I want to show how I use the affordances of the Moodle system by using some of the more complex activities as a basis for student collaborative work and learning in the online environment. And remember that I have set all of these as tasks that need to be completed in order to earn badges, and collectively these activities account for 10% of the student's grade, which should motivate students to become involved in the online learning process. So I won't talk about forums because they're fairly common and everybody uses them. And I've talked about the Facebook activity in the introductory video. So today, in this video, I'm going to look at how to set up a keyword wiki, a resource database, and a mind map gallery. So let's move here. The first thing that we want to do is add things. So from these menu, we can choose what to add. And I went with the OU wiki, which I found to be slightly easier to use than the one that comes with Moodle. And I used the database, and I used a gallery, which is here, a lightbox gallery, because this allows you to upload pictures, and it's very useful. So let's add this. Okay, so I'm gonna call this a demo gallery. You can set the number of things that you show and the images per row. I set this at 2 in my previous one. I think it's better to have 3 or 4, to be honest. Display full text caption. I like that caption position at the bottom. You can set all sorts of things. Allow comments. I think that's important. Make public no. Of course, the common module settings have to be done so that everything is shown. You can add restrictions, and I think it's important to show that the activity is done, so that we can be sure that the students get their badges, and so that we can monitor their completion of the activity. So this is fairly common. This is fairly easy. This activity, you can just add a file here. So I'll show you what that looks like. It should be here. So here is a gallery for the seminar discussion, and then I've already uploaded some files. As you can see, I probably should have picked 3 rather than 2 images per row here. And comments also get shown. So this is an example of how to use the mind map gallery. And because okay, I'm not going to talk about mind maps more there. That would be interesting to do so. Now, this is the resource database that I've set up, and you could add an entry here. You can add the file name. So this form has to be created when you set it up. So the entry, the link, maybe you can put in a box, you can add a picture. And then I've set this up so that students can type in what lesson something refers to. So it's easy to look for information that's relevant. And then I listed some keywords, and I think it's one of the weaknesses of the platform that you have to know what the keywords are and you have to list them. I think some kind of like some different method of inputting keywords would be useful. So I actually chose a checkbox for this, and I think perhaps if I put a short text box so that students could type in their own keywords, it would have been better. And then I put resource type so that we could put what kind of thing we're putting. And you also have to be careful to know what you're doing, because when I set this up, I put all of these down and then I deleted them, and then now they're still showing. So you have to be very careful when you set these things up. So how do you set them up? Let's have a look. So this is the wiki. Okay, so here's the database. So I'm setting up a demo database, and this is at the setup page. So you can put all of these things for entries. So do you want to approve them as a teacher? Can you allow editing? Can you allow comments? Entries required for completion. So this is really important because I want to set this for 5 so that students have to put in 5 entries in order to complete the task. entries required before viewing. So if I put this here, people have to put in at least one entry before they can view. And this is really important for getting them motivated for using it. Maximum number of entries, I think, set that at a high number so that people can really use them. So availability, you can set the time. You could give them a grade for this, but I'm not going to. You could allow ratings, but I'm not going to. And of course, the common module settings. I've set everything to be hidden so that so the interface is very clean. So you have to turn on everything to be shown, and I don't want to use groups. No restrictions. And activity completion, I think it's important so that students can get their badges. Um, so, okay, and we can't tick grade because I haven't set up a grade. So let's save and display. It seems like you set up the whole thing now, but you haven't. Um, now you have to set up the fields. So there are no fields set up for this database. So what we have to do is set up some fields. So choose one. I'm gonna put let's see, a text input. Okay. Name. Input the name of entry. This should be a required field, so I'm going to put add. Let's put in a file. This is not required because not everybody will be putting in a file. Let's put in here, should be a URL. This is not required, and I think it should open a new window. Let's add that. So now at least we have a very basic thing set up here. So let's save that. We could of course add more fields as I've previously done in the other database. So here we have the basic fields, and now what we need to do is adjust the templates. So this is a template for the single field, which is not so difficult. But what we need to look at is the list template, which is what it will show if we're going to look at all the entries in the database. So in order to make this navigable, we need to put in a table. Which for some reason is not working. This should bring up an automatic table inputting function, which makes it rather difficult to know how to proceed. But the basic method is that when we click this, a table dialog should appear, and then we can choose the number of rows to put in. And then we put in, I'm going to put in a 3-row because I've got 3 fields. And then I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to look at the HTML code, and unfortunately we have none right now. But if we had some, I would go in and say that we need to have the whole width would be 100%, and then I would put in widths for each column depending on how long I wanted it to be. And then I would copy and paste that HTML, and I would go in here. Oh, a second. Yeah, I would go in here. I would get rid of all of that stuff. And then I would paste in my HTML and then save it. But that's not going to happen in this case. However, if I'd done that, I would have had a table with nice columns, which would be more easy to see. But what we can do here is we can click this. And we could put well, after we've copied and pasted the table from here, and we've typed the name of the columns, we'd have to go in, and here it would just say name. So you have to click that name, and then you click that, and it will change this text to this file type. So this will for each thing, each entry, this will be what will be shown. And then we could add another column for actions. So we could have edit, delete, approve, and we could add all of those and then save them, and don't usually worry about the footer. So let me show you what this would look like. So here is my table. So here everything gets put out. So I've chosen one column for each of the key types of data which have to be input for each entry. And let's go in here. If we go here, you can see that I've made this table. And then let's have a look at the HTML here. So I've set the width for 100% and then set the width for each column at a different length. Of course, these all have to add up to 100. And then, for example, here, if I wanted to change this, I've got resource type choose one. I could put in keywords there if I wanted to by pressing that, but I'm not going to do that in this case. But this is how you would do that to set up the table. And one of the mistakes I made when I set this up was I set up this table without having the borders on the table. So when we go to the view list, there are no borders, and it would have been better with borders. Anyway, this is how we set up this so that it's usable by the students. And as you can see, students can download a file. They can press a link here. So here, Heterotopia Study Site. They can press a link. It will open in a new window, hopefully, at some point. And so this makes a very usable way for students to share bibliographical information like resources such as pictures or articles, and also links to good sites. So this is very useful for collaborative study. So what about the wiki? How do we set up a wiki? So this is the database done. Let's look at the wiki. So I set up a demo wiki, and what I want to look at here is the settings. So activity completion. Students must view it and they must receive a grade. No, they must create new pages. So I'm going to put in 3 new pages, and they must make 1 edit, for example. So we can save. So this has activity completion requirements for the wiki, so that students can then get their badge. So here we have a wiki, but it's not very useful, is it? There's nothing happening. Students would be very lost if we didn't set it up. So I'm going to set up an introduction page. Now the way to create new pages is to put them in double brackets, double square brackets. We could put in pictures here, and we can play around with how this looks. Anyway, if we then save this, which might take a second, now we have a start page, and I've called it an index page. I could edit that. And here we have the first page set up. So all of the pages that the students might want to go to should be listed here on the index page, but then there could be sub-pages under that. And then the index page is not made, so we have to create that again. So this links to subpages, and we could just set that up by putting in the double brackets, which automatically creates a new page, or at least a link to a new page, and then we have to click that to set it up. So going to my wiki, you can see that I've set up an index with a section for each week, for the topic that we study in each week. And if we go, well, actually, if we go to other topics, I've set up a discussion of the theory badges, and then here we could put in other things. I've put a link for this and then described what it is, but then there's another person here. I put a link for him, but we have to create his page. And if we go back, then we could, for example, look at the Propaganda Week. This wiki has been set up as a space for students to collaboratively create definitions of the keywords that we learn each week. So I kind of anticipate what these are, and I've set them up. So this helps recall, and students have to set them up each week when they're presenting, but other students have to go in and leave comments about them and edit it. So this is already set up for the students, but then they have to go in and create this page and add their definition here. So this is how the interactive parts of the course work, and how I set them up using the activities available on Moodle. Thank you very much for watching.